Good evening, everyone. Meteorologist Jessica Blum joining you from the 1011 Now Alert Center to talk about the forecast going forward throughout this week. The next 3 days, elevated fire danger tomorrow, a risk for severe weather on Friday, and freeze and frost potential into this weekend as colder air arrives on the backside of the system, posing a risk for severe weather in eastern Nebraska on Friday. But in the short-term future, we are watching for some fire danger across much of the state tomorrow. It will be elevated, if not extreme, so that's really what headlines your forecast here for Thursday. There's a fire weather watch, if not red flag warning, upgrade throughout the state to show you. We'll talk about the severe threat limited on Friday, kind of dependent on the positioning of a cold front. And then the weekend certainly looks cooler and cold overnight each morning, with low temperatures dropping below freezing in some spots, if not cold enough to get some frost. So we do have some of those headlines to talk about as well. So as for the red flag warning that's in place for much of central and western Nebraska, that will be in place for much of the afternoon, evening hours on Thursday, April 16th. You can see the northeast corner of the state's right now under a fire weather watch for that same time frame. The National Weather Service out of Omaha, not quite sure if we're going to reach red flag warning criteria, but it could be close, and hence why they're watching that area. But really, throughout much of the state, we're going to want to avoid open burning, minimize any potential ignition sources. Don't park vehicles in the grass in situations like this, and be careful with outdoor equipment that could cause a spark, because we've got a southwest wind that could be gusting around 20 to 30 miles per hour. Relative humidity could be as low as 15 to 25%, and we're looking at warm temperatures in the low and middle 80s for tomorrow. So fires that could start easily would spread quickly on a day like Thursday. So keep that in mind. As we talk about the winds here in Lincoln, I think they could be gusting around 25, 30 miles per hour out of the south-southwest. On Friday, they'll start out of the south, but the cold front's going to come through, and I think we may see the strongest winds on the backside of that cold front. And then pretty breezy into Saturday with those northwest winds working in a cooler air mass for the beginning of this weekend. We should rebound on Sunday, though, with some warming and temperatures back up in the 70s, and then on Monday still breezy with a south wind, maybe gusting around 35 miles per hour. So that's Thursday. Then into Friday, we have this risk for severe weather that's largely shifted to the east and southeast. So Lincoln, Omaha continuing to be kind of shoved out of the worst of the severe risk. That is well to our southeast. It barely clips Fall City at this point, but right now still working on the timing of that cold front and where it sets up for the afternoon, and kind of where that warm sector out ahead of that cold front is going to set up, because if we can see some warming in the day, initial storm development could be cellular, or we're looking at supercells kind of capable of all severe weather hazards, including tornadoes, but large hail, damaging wind certainly on the table. But you'll see, again, that risk is going to get better as you move your way south and east in southeast Nebraska. So onward from Lincoln, onward from Omaha, the marginal level 1 out of 5 risk bumps up quickly to a slight and then an enhanced risk. And that enhanced risk is pretty vast as you look through Oklahoma, Kansas, Missouri, Iowa, Illinois, and Wisconsin. If you got friends or family in those areas, make sure that they have a heads up about the weather by the end of this work week, as the cold front will come crashing through a fairly warm and unstable air mass. So that'll provide some lift for these storms and the potential for some tornadoes as well. But you'll see we're on the western edge again in southeast Nebraska. So boding well for dodging a severe weather threat. I know we saw some severe weather today, and I'm going to talk about that here coming up. But we're looking first in the future and hopefully dodging the severe weather, but again, maybe picking up on some rain. Then we get into Friday night and largely Saturday morning. You're looking at a freeze watch in portions of southwestern Nebraska, North Platte, McCook included in that, from 8 o'clock Friday night until 8 a.m. Saturday morning. We're looking at temperatures dipping as low as about 20 degrees in some of these areas. So frost, freeze conditions could kill crops, other sensitive vegetation, possibly damage unprotected outdoor plumbing. If you've got a hose hooked up, probably would be a good idea to disconnect that going into Saturday morning and even Sunday morning. So we may see even some of these colder weather alerts expand as we go into Sunday morning as well. I'll show you those low temperatures across the state here coming up toward the end of this stream. But as we talk about today and even last night, several severe thunderstorm warnings issued in southeast Nebraska. Today it was largely in and around Dwight, as well as Seward, just north of Seward, really. Ceresco under a severe thunderstorm warning. York for a time today. And then just north of that, surrounding Columbus, and just to the north of Fremont toward Hupper and Tacoma. And largely the story today and even last night was for hail and maybe some gusty winds. But then you can also see some flood and flash flood warnings were issued in southeast Nebraska last night. But out of the reports that truly tell us what actually happened for each of these locations, you can see numerous hail reports came out of these thunderstorms, and largely from a couple different tracks of a stronger storm right here today and then right there today. The largest hail report was up to 2 inches, or about the size of a lime, in Dwight, and I've seen some pictures of the hail falling in Dwight, and it looked like snow coating the ground. It was a lot of hail falling for a time out that way. Certainly saw some of the radar returns too, and the reflectivity values were quite high, so indicating some of that hail potential. Was on a school visit today, and we were kind of watching some of that weather live. We went outside to take a picture, which we'll share with you on our Next Big Change segment tomorrow night. But we were able to look at the sky, look at the bubbling cumulus in the distance, and then come in, and we had a little question and answer segment that we had with the 6th graders, and they were able to ask me about my job, ask about the weather going on, because we were currently in a severe thunderstorm watch. Lancaster County was. So went out to Norris for that school visit. Again, we'll share more on that coming up. But that's a look at your storm reports from the past 24 hours. Numerous hail reports mostly. As for the rain, again, flash flood warnings down around Beatrice and the Cook area in southeast Nebraska. Beatrice Airport got a little less than 1.5 inches, a little less than 1.25 inches in Nebraska City, but you can see what the radar's estimating is 3-4 inches between those two areas toward Cook. Lincoln missing out on some moisture, but Tacoma got 0.8 of an inch today. We're looking at 0.13 of an inch in Norfolk, 0.22 of an inch in Hastings. So some rain for some areas. It wasn't a lot, even in the southwestern Nebraska, maybe a few hundredths of an inch. Your low temperatures today, I'm guessing that's not right in Ainsworth, not 9 degrees, sensor issues up that way, but 56 degrees here in Lincoln, comfortable start to the day, cooler certainly in northwest Nebraska, but everyone managing mostly to get into the 70s outside of some of those thunderstorms that kind of provide some rain-cooled air in northeast Nebraska. We got to 73 here in Lincoln, 73 in Chadron, 80 even in Nebraska City and Fall City. But nowhere near record highs today. Maybe getting close tomorrow for Thursday as we quiet down. We don't have a severe risk to look at for one day this work week. How about that? Gorgeous look at the sunset. Look at that in our Skyview camera. Some beautiful pink clouds and purple clouds in the distance. The sun still above the horizon in O'Neill. Ooh, that is a good-looking sunset. Temperatures in the upper 60s. It's comfortable for an evening walk for sure. West wind, less than 5 miles an hour. An April night like this. Coveted. Can't take those for granted. Some still up around 70 degrees, but most of us have temperatures in the upper 60s. As for our Tempest stations across Lincoln, our temperatures across southeast Nebraska are mostly in the 60s as well. Aurora's down to 59, as is York. Still up around 70 in Valentine, 71 in Lexington and Holdridge, 72 in McCook. A lot of us are in 60s. As you look at the dew point, it's pretty comfortable, fairly dry in western Nebraska, hence driving a great chance at really extreme fire danger out in western Nebraska going into tomorrow. Those winds are fairly light, though. They're coming down even in the Panhandle for what has been a little gusty evening in Scotts Bluff, but those wind gusts are falling below 30 miles an hour. Radar's been pretty quiet. Some showers, some thunderstorms that are fairly isolated in nature, kind of losing their coverage with time as we look over the past 4 hours. Fairfield just saw a little bit of rain. Looks like Geneva and Bruning as well. It's kind of moving in toward western. Beatrice may still get yet a little more rain here this evening. Likely going to dodge Lincoln. As you can see, it's diving to the south of Lancaster County. So not a big deal here tonight. We'll actually have clearing skies. Pretty quiet going into the start of Thursday with mostly sunny skies for much of the day. I think we'll be rather quiet with just some of those breezy conditions. Some of these models not quite going out all the way that I wanted to. But again, Friday we're watching for the risk for severe weather with a cold front situating itself in eastern Nebraska. Could be for areas of far southeastern Nebraska in place and in play for a risk for severe weather by the afternoon. But temperatures as of 9 o'clock tonight in the lower 60s. Very nice evening, sunny and pleasant for tomorrow morning, knowing temperatures are in the 40s. But we do bounce back up right around 90 degrees tomorrow. And our average high should be 65. So we're way above that. Your low temperatures on Thursday, though, look comfortable compared to the cooler weather that we're in for by the end of this weekend. This weekend, it'll be cold, even for some, knowing that we're dropping down into the 20s. Your high temperatures tomorrow, again, close to 90 degrees eventually in the late afternoon, but pretty nice stretch throughout the morning, 50s by 9 a.m., 70 by 11 a.m., and then we'll climb into those lower 80s past noon. So your forecasted highs, you can see for a lot of locations, right around 88, maybe 89 degrees toward Grand Island. High temperatures on Friday, though, quite a spread. And this is a lot different from what we were thinking in days past. Now thinking we may get closer to 70 degrees on Friday, but highs are only in the 40s in the Panhandle. Middle and upper 70s toward Falls City. They'll be the last to see the cold front, and hence why they have the better risk for severe weather. But look at the overnight lows going into Saturday morning. We dropped from about 70 degrees down to about 30. And you're talking about those high temperatures in the 40s down to the 20s and teens out in western Nebraska and the Panhandle. So hence why there is a freeze watch for much of southwestern Nebraska. High temperatures on Saturday aren't all that bad. Seasonally cool, really, but pretty comfortable once we get out of the colder morning, and then another cold morning on Sunday, where we'll be below freezing for a little bit here in Lincoln, with temperatures largely warming up nicely in the lower 70s, lower 80s in McCook, upper 60s in northeast Nebraska. But Sunday's the dip in the temperatures before we're staying above average for quite some time throughout next week, with temperatures right around 80 degrees past Monday, maybe even closer to 90 degrees in North Platte and McCook, as we're looking at early next week on Tuesday. As for the precipitation chances past Friday, we're looking at a dry weekend, dry start to next week, but then chances start to increase again by Thursday and Friday of next week and potentially into the early portions of next weekend. What I haven't mentioned, too, with some of the cold weather Friday night into Saturday, there's a small chance, not really for Lincoln, but maybe areas of northeast Nebraska, in which they could see a little rain-snow mix. It's not going to amount to anything, but don't be shocked if you see that into early Saturday morning, as it'll be cold enough to kind of see a little snow trying to mix in. Your 8 to 14-day precipitation outlook toward the end of the month now is leaning toward above average precipitation, especially down to the south of Kansas City. And we really don't have a good signal for above average temperatures looking toward the end of this month. So maybe trending a little cooler, could be above average, it could be near normal. We kind of have equal chances for each of those options when you look at a map that's pretty gray. So tomorrow's record is at 91 degrees from 1964. We'll be within about 3 degrees of that. The winds will come up on Friday as that cold front's coming through, and we think we see that relatively early in the day on Friday, so that should limit a lot of our severe weather potential here in Lincoln, but it is better to the south and east as we go toward Falls City. As you look at Saturday, still breezy on the backside of that system, winds then out of the north, and highs only in the 50s, so cooler feeling day, but rebounding on Sunday with lighter winds. We'll be breezy again on Monday, and then much of next week, again looking around 80 degrees for highs, and Earth Day appears on the 7-day forecast toward next Wednesday. So a lot to talk about in the next 3 days, just in terms of the fire danger. Again, if I quickly flash that up for you, red flag warning in place for much of central and western Nebraska. We may hit red flag warning criteria in northeast Nebraska, but we've seen some moisture in southeast Nebraska, so that's kind of keeping us out of it, and moisture in the atmosphere. Again, those are your max wind gusts for each day, but largely that severe risk on Friday continues to be trimmed and shifted to the east. Now, this still could have some movement west or east getting closer to Friday, so we're still going to watch it through the day tomorrow. We'll still watch it through much of Friday morning until we can closely monitor where that front is setting up on Friday. But again, the thought is that the best areas that'll have a chance to warm up on Friday will be south and east of Lincoln altogether, in Odo counties, Johnson, Nemaha, Pawnee, Richardson counties, the like, that have seen a lot of thunderstorms lately. And then the freeze watch for southwest Nebraska. And again, we may see more cold headlines and maybe even a frost advisory for some in the state going into early this weekend, if not maybe Sunday morning as well. So that's all the things we're watching here in the near future. All is in a lot of things, but the risk for severe weather goes away for Thursday. I think a lot of us can kind of take a break, take a breather. Thankful for that, though we will be watching for fire danger. And then we will hope for a quieter weekend with the cooler temperatures arriving. Hope everyone has a great Wednesday. And again, stay tuned to tomorrow evening's next big change, because we'll feature the Norris Public Schools 6th graders that we got to visit today. We took a great big picture with that group. It was a great group, and we'll talk more about that visit going into tomorrow evening stream. But appreciate everyone joining here on a Wednesday, April 15th, and hope everyone has a good Wednesday night.
1011 News is everywhere.